And I have to think about one feature of successful scientists. It's around passion. Most people do well in science because they totally love what they do. So I think if you love what you do, you'll be successful. But you need that kind of passion.
I like everything about my job. I think, everything. I mean, it's what you want to do when you're a kid. Well, people who end up doing what I do usually as kids, they love puzzles. They love solving puzzles. That's how it's worked for me. But the point is, it is fascinating to try and understand how the viruses work. Yeah, that's what I enjoy the most, is solving the puzzle.
I think it's just amazing, kind of, especially how these viral infections can do what they do in such a small genome. It's always just mind-blowing to me. But I think the one piece of advice I would give would be, to not hold on too tenaciously to your ideas, and just let the data tell you something. You're going to be able to find things which you didn't expect, and it's the unexpected, which is really, probably the most satisfying part of this career.
Keep your goals, have some direction, but also understand that sometimes different avenues do take you to some interesting questions, and the whole point of finishing a PhD and moving on to a postdoc, or maybe going to work in industry or in academia, is that you're open to research and you're open to questions, and that you have some tools that you can use to tackle something, but that to understand that you're a lifelong learner and that you can always learn new things. My why is a want. It's a want to understand and a want to help and just a want to make a difference.
What I like about being a sort of theorist in immunology is that you can be pretty broad. You're asking the bigger questions. You're not describing a detailed small element of some biochemical pathway, but you have to really think about the somewhat larger questions. You have to have a broad knowledge of the literature, and you can approach this with this modeling approach. So in this area, in this interdisciplinary area of bringing immunology, biology and theory together, you can be broader, and that is something that I like very much. Don't specialize too early, learn different techniques. Don't be afraid of a little bit of math, because the math is not so difficult.
I think that for me the difficulties of modelling are also the excitements of modelling. So really that it's a very new science. So you can't really look to anyone else to kind of copy their ideas or to copy their approaches. You're really having to forge your own path, which is much harder, but also when it goes right, it's also much more exciting. So sometimes it feels like quite a slow process, but then the breakthroughs, I think, are worth it. I would say stick with it. It is very challenging. There's a lot of stress from being a PhD student and then to getting your first postdoc position and then getting a more permanent position. And I think a lot of people can be put off by seeing that career path as being really quite rocky and quite uncertain. But I would say it is a fantastic career. You get a real freedom to do what you want. You get to talk to the most interesting people in the world. It's a unique and brilliant job. So I would say it's worth the stress. And looking back, I wouldn't want us to do anything else. So, like I said, I'd stick with it if you can. If you've got the passion, the long hours kind of follow naturally. It's not really a problem.
The most important thing is to find people who work with that you jive with well, people who support you, mentors who will highlight your work, and collaborators who you really feel like it's a mutually beneficial relationship. So I think it's important that no matter how famous you think someone is or how likely it is that you may get a Nature paper out of working in a lab, if that's a negative environment, I think you should leave it as soon as possible and surround yourself by positive, productive work environments whenever possible. And then, as Becca said, it really can be a very wonderful and rewarding career.
Yeah, I agree with the comments so far. Being in the best place in the world, I think, really does pay off for your training, at least. I think that it gives you a way of approaching science and a network of collaborators that you'll keep for the rest of your career.
I think that is incredibly important, but I think using the networks around you, even at a very early career stage, is an incredibly important thing. I've been richly supported in my career.
One of the great advantages of science and in medicine is that you probably get a little bit of flexibility to choose how hard you want to work at different stages. Women should be aiming at exactly the same things as their male counterparts. I recognise there still is a lot of challenges for women, which amaze me when I think about how long women have been doing science, but yet there still are real challenges in women representation at all different levels, and I think we have to be conscious about it, talk about it, and just make it easier for the next generation.
It's important for mentors to recognise the differences between their female students and staff and their male students and staff, and really try to nurture women and to nurture their confidence.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that's been said. I personally, I think I've been lucky. I haven't really ever noticed that I was a female and that was somehow different, but I know that that's not true for everyone. So I think it is important to recognize sort of generalized differences that often occur between men and women, particularly in terms of and confidence and ability to negotiate situations for themselves and to take that into account. And I think also sort of later on in many women's career, many issues of work-life balance that come up in academia sort of were innately designed for a situation where much of the field was men who had women at home to take care of many things. And I think it's important for us to address those type of sort of structural issues, both for men and women, to make it easier to have both a productive academic career, but also have balance outside of that. And I think that will have the effect of improving the retention of women in the field.
I've been quite lucky, but there's definitely bumps in the road. I don't have all the answers because I'm still postdoc, to me it's still exciting and it's still worth it. So I'm still pushing through.
Absolutely go for it. I'm in the UK, which in Europe is the worst for the percentage of women in engineering. But there is absolutely no reason why you cannot succeed. It's an interesting area. There is a lot of good we can do, and go with what you're interested in. Gender should make no difference, and it will not make any difference once you engage. Many of the young women we see coming through universities in the UK and going on to PhDs are absolutely outstanding because they're going against the grain. It's a very unusual thing to do, but that doesn't mean it's not a fascinating, creative, exciting thing to do. So go for it.